Welcome to the Develop Yourself podcast, where we teach you everything you need to land your first job as a software developer by developing yourself, your skills, your network, your habits, and more. Today, our guest is Pete Codes. Pete is the founder of the website nocsdegree.com, which tells the stories of people who have broken into the tech industry without the traditional credentials, so mostly bootcamp or self-taught folks. Pete has several other projects he's currently working on, including a paid community and several courses. In this conversation, Pete and I get into common characteristics he's noticed among people who have successfully transitioned to tech, how he handles personal productivity with so many projects, and how he thinks about his vision for the future of the No CS Degree brand, among many other things. This was a lot of fun, so without further ado, here is my conversation with Pete Codes. All right, Pete, welcome to the Develop Yourself podcast.
Oh, thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for taking the time. You and I have been part of a lot of similar online communities, some of the same online communities for a while, and hang out similar corners of Twitter. So I'm pretty familiar with you. But for anybody listening who might not be familiar with you and your story, can you introduce yourself and just tell a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm based in Edinburgh in Scotland in the UK, and basically for almost about 3 years, I've been running this website myself called nocsdegree.com. And basically, it's full of inspiring interviews for showing people that you can get a job or start a business without a computer science degree. You can learn either yourself through online courses, or you can go to boot camp. And it's just basically showing people that, there's very lots of new pathways to getting like a really good career. And also I've filled that website out a bit more over the years. So there's now a job board. So someone emailed me over the weekend, said that they just got their first job in tech because they found out my job board. So that's really cool. So yeah, that's basically no CS degree in a nutshell. And I also do a bunch of other things. Like I've got a community for founders called High Signal, and I've got a few products out about growing newsletters, which is kind of my forte in the kind of online space.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think No CS Degree, I know for me, has been really helpful. It's been fun to see just the approaches that other people have taken. And I imagine it's going to be very impactful for our audience because that's where most people are that listen to this, or at least so we think, kind of trying to make that transition between not coding to becoming an engineer or maybe early career. So definitely want to get into all of that. Before we do, though, I'm curious if you could just give us a quick rundown of all the other kind of products and activities you have going on. So you mentioned High Signal. Can you tell us about some of your newsletter products maybe, or other things that you spend time on?
Yeah, happy to. I'll try and remember them all. I've got, so highsignal.io is basically a community for founders. Basically, I find myself, like a lot of people during, the ongoing COVID situation, kind of like working from home. I don't have colleagues because I'm a solo founder, and you do get pretty isolated pretty quickly. So I was kind of wanting to have a way to kind of chat and go over problems and talk the talk with other founders in a kind of like one like meaningful way. So we do like weekly Zooms, and we've also got a Telegram group for kind of quick questions if someone has. And it's a really good cross section. We've got like developers on there, we've got SEO experts, we've got like YouTubers. So it's a really cool bunch of founders. I've got another project which is remote companies, and that's basically a directory of the best remote companies to work for. I'm kind of in the process of selling that though, because I want to like focus a bit more on no CS degree. And I've got two courses which are monetizeyournewsletter.com and growyournewsletter.com. And they're both kind of like hour and a half video courses on growing and monetizing your email list respectively, and basically goes through lots of the kind of tips that I've found helpful as a bootstrapped entrepreneur, growing a newsletter to thousands of developers without, expensive things like ads, basically. And yeah, I think only one other thing is on the High Signal website, I also have a newsletter for founders, and it's kind of founders that TechCrunch won't cover. So it's kind of like, stories of people getting to 6 or 7 figures. And obviously, TechCrunch are kind of like, unless you've raised capital, they're pretty unlikely to cover you. So yeah, a few different products across the kind of coding and like bootstrap founder space.
Got it. Yeah, it's quite a bit going on. All pretty interesting stuff. Didn't you also have kind of a Indie Hackers Digest of just cool products you'd seen or something like that? Or am I getting that wrong?
Um, yeah, doesn't ring a bell, but yeah, I might have made something like that in the past. But no, I don't think so. I think like basically, I mean, the in a way that the newsletter kind of functions like that for high signal. So I'll send like a digest of what people are working on, and funny tweets and things like this person just got to 10K monthly recurring revenue and things like that. So it's kind of like a digest of what people are working on. So yeah, it might have been that you're thinking of.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm curious, just selfishly, I'm kind of in a similar boat newly to you in the sense that I'm trying to make a go of this whole indie hacker self employed thing. I'm curious how you manage your time. That's quite a few different things going on. Do you have a system for structuring your calendar, or do you kind of just do whatever you happen to be most interested in any given day? Like, how do you think about that?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. Well, basically, I should say that, I am wanting to, because I've got a lot of products on the go, I'm trying to like streamline a bit. I am like, I just put remote companies' website up on microacquire, and I've had some interest, privately from other people. So I would say that, there's a lot of talk, I guess, in the last year or so about, a portfolio of tiny bets. And I think
Hmm.
it's good to do that if you don't have traction in something, but once something does have traction, like Node.js degree does, it probably better to focus on, one thing. And I guess as well, the problem with having too many things is you get really used to like starting things, but not really growing things. So it's kind of like you're always chasing the dopamine rush of like the next, like, oh, I get to launch this new thing and new
Yeah.
shiny object. So but yeah, in terms of like how I organize myself, I guess firstly, I always try to do like the hardest or thing I least want to do on my to-do list first in the day.
Hmm.
A lot of marketers call that eating the frog.
Yeah.
I just think yeah, hardest thing first is what I call it. Nice and simple. And yeah, that's been really good because it just means, realistically at 4:30 in the afternoon, are you going to do that thing that you don't want to do? Probably not. But
Right.
when you're fresh in the morning, you just had a coffee or whatever, you can do that. Apart from that, I've tried a few different methods, but I think one of the best things I would do is like block out, say, like an hour of time and, no phones, no social media, turn all that stuff off and just, work for an hour and then, have a break or something. And then, so I think that's really like powerful because you, like, if you have your phone on while you're trying to work or whatever, it's just a bit of a nightmare, really.
Yeah.
And yeah, apart from that, that's the main things I'd say. Like, cut down distractions, do the hardest thing first, and I would say probably as well, batching time is nice. Like, I try my best to do like all my newsletters on one day, and then like I might have like other days where I just do sales, and that way you're really getting into a rhythm and into a flow instead of like chopping and changing like 5 different kind of modes you're in.
Right. So sounds like you kind of just have like one day for each kind of thing. So you're not context switching, which is a really cool idea. I've thought about doing something similar where your head can kind of be in the same space all day. So that's pretty interesting. I'm curious. So transitioning a little bit to no CS degree. So this podcast, like I said, is largely geared towards people who are kind of towards that beginning phase and not just learning code to become a software engineer, but considering your whole person and the parts of yourself that you need to develop, like your mindset, your habits, your network. So, like all the things that you need in addition to learning to code. You've done a ton of interviews with people that have made this transition. So, I'm curious if there are common traits in the people who have done this successfully that you've noticed through all the interviews that you've done on No CS Degree.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think really just having, I guess everyone that I've interviewed has really just had a growth mindset. They've not seen themselves as like, oh, well, I just work and, because basically, like to give some context, I've had a lot of dramatic career changes on the website. People have been, working as a waitress, now they're a developer, or, working in the army, or, selling beer, or loads, any kind of job you could think of, blue collar, white collar, but nothing to do with coding basically. I think really the key mindset has just been having a growth mindset where you kind of see yourself as a work in progress, and you're like, I'm not a developer yet, but I can be.
Hmm.
And that's, I mean, that's, it can be a hard thing to do, because if you are stuck in debt, or you're working a not so great job, that can be hard, but it's really worth nurturing, because if you see yourself in the fixed mindset, it's hard to improve at things. Whereas if you have a growth mindset and you think, well, I'm not at that point now, but I can work on it. So I guess that's basically also an integral thing to No CS Degree in general as the whole project. Is even if there's lots of people on my site, dropped out of high school, and then but they just learned to code later in life, in their 30s or even in their 50s sometimes. So yeah, I'd say having a growth mindset and believing that it's possible to learn new things is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think ironically, it's kind of a virtuous circle type of deal because, at least in my experience, I know learning to code has reinforced the idea that it's possible to learn anything because so much of it is just having to learn how to learn, figure stuff out on your own, and teach yourself stuff. So that's one of the bigger things I end up telling people is that this is kind of a gateway to, like, it's essentially a meta skill. It's a gateway to like learning anything you want to learn because the nature of it is such that you're having to teach yourself a lot.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And yeah, I should say as well that there's a really good book which I don't think it gets enough credit in, or maybe it's not read enough in tech circles, but Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck
Hmm.
is like amazing, because she basically goes through his examples where there's a high school in Seattle, which was like, I think it was like, the most deprived area. And the teachers there were trained on, having a growth mindset. And they taught, the students, okay, haven't figured out this problem yet, but, I'll get there. And the kids were soon beating, the schools where the Microsoft parents send their kids.
Right.
So yeah, that's a really good book, and I think you can obviously apply it to lots of things like fitness, or yeah, other hobbies apart from coding. So it's definitely a whole like yeah, kind of like broad thing, broad mindset.
Yeah, definitely. Very inspiring. I always mean to read Mindset, but I guess I'm familiar enough with the concepts now.
Yeah,
Maybe I
sure.
won't get around to it. We'll
Yeah,
see.
sure.
Definitely very. You notice that among people that succeed coding is that, and the people that do the best, treat it as kind of an adventure, treat it as something where they're expressing curiosity. I know for myself, a lot of my experience was trying to check boxes, doing projects just so that I could have a portfolio, so that I could get a job. And I found that to be actually a pretty hurtful mindset because it's kind of outcome based rather than enjoying the process, treating learning as something fun and enjoyable, and believing you can kind of grow and acquire these skills. So definitely resonates with me. I'm curious, you mentioned on No CS Degree, there's lots of dramatic stories of kind of career turnarounds. I'm curious if you have maybe not a favorite one or two because don't want to make you play favorites, but when you think about those, the top one or two examples that come to mind of a kind of stunning transformation from people having learned how to code?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I think a really good example would be Taylor Alexis, who is a developer from the States, and she did go to college. I believe it is for kind of like BA in arts or some kind of social science degree. Wasn't finding it easy to get a kind of a graduate or a kind of corporate job, and she was working as a waitress in a restaurant, and she just did like a Udemy course and was really just working like nights and weekends on that whilst doing her full-time job. And I've worked in hospitality in the past as a student, and yeah, it's really demanding. Like, you're on your feet all day. Customers aren't always the best people, so to do that, like, for, I don't know, 40, 50 hours a week, and then at night just be like, okay, I'm gonna like learn JavaScript.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. And she's doing really well in her career. So obviously she's become a developer now. So that's great. And yeah, I guess as well, one of my favorites as well would be this guy, Ben Ford, who was in the Royal Marines, in the, UK Armed Forces. And he got into programming whilst on a battleship of some kind,
Yeah.
sailing around the world. And he had a computer, really beat up, laptop that he managed to beg off someone. And he ordered like a book. uh you know I don't know how on earth it got to him, but he ordered a book on like how to learn Python. He didn't have any internet, so he, couldn't go on Stack Overflow, couldn't go
Yeah.
on free code camp to ask for questions, and just like learned to code that way. And yeah, he's in the UK, but he's like left the military and like got straight into working as a software developer. So yeah, you can really go. There's other people as well that Caitlin was. I think Caitlin Greffley was working in corporate beer sales. So I guess working for a big brewery, doing like loads of sales, and she kind of just managed to. I think she managed to like fit it around her job, and she actually went to a boot camp, but I think it was like a part-time one. And yeah, now she's a developer for, oh, it's escaped me, but like a really big like a big financial website in the US. I'll
Got it.
remember after this podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of the, not Morning Brew, but one of those like big. It's a big company. So yeah, there's really like loads of people that have come from like left school without any grades, or just went to college for a completely different degree. Maybe did sociology or philosophy or psychology, and then have like flipped things around. And the great thing is, a lot of people, you can also learn to code like relatively quickly. If you go to a boot camp, it'll be about 6 months maybe, or if you're learning on your own and you
Hmm.
really dedicated, you can spend a year. And especially in the US, you get really great outcomes where people can be on six-figure salaries within a few years of learning to code, which is
Right.
it's pretty incredible given the cost of living situation for people nowadays.
Yeah, it's really incredible and super impactful to read those stories for several reasons. I think number one, I don't know if you've heard this phrase, before you can be it, you need to see it, or something like that. It's kind of shows you the way, right? It shows you what's possible, and it's hard to believe things are possible unless you've seen somebody else do what you're trying to do. And so I think the stories are really helpful in that regard. And secondly, you can pull tactics from these stories and try things that other people have tried that worked for them. And you have all these stories to pick from. I know for myself, even now, so starting kind of the freelance route, which is one of the things I'm doing to kind of bring in some income, I have on my list to go back through No CS degree for the freelancers and just try and figure out like how did they get their first client. And so it's just so helpful to have prior examples of what people have done already.
Oh, thanks a lot. Yeah, no, it's really good. It's really good to hear that. And yeah, I'm not sure exactly how many there are, but there's definitely like over 150 stories. A lot of diversity on there. A lot of people that have gone through different paths. Some people have, gone into kind of, corporate software development. Some people are doing, freelancers, don't want to have a boss. Other people are making, startups that are doing really well. So yeah, there's a load of different outcomes that you can get from learned code, whether it's, you want to go for a 9 to 5 and, that's totally fine. If you want to make your own app and your own startup or freelance, then yeah, there's loads of options.
Yeah, it's one of the coolest things I think is having these skills just unlock so many other things beyond just having a 9 to 5. Like you said, building apps, building your own products, freelancing, kind of whatever. It's meta learning as well. So, yeah, I'm still fired up on it, 5 years in, which is all very exciting. I wanted to transition a little bit. So I heard you on a few different podcasts, and it seems like inevitably in every interview, sales comes up. And it seems like you have figured out some things that work. So I'm curious, initially, just to start talking about mindset a little bit, what do you think someone has to work on internally in themselves first before they gain any kind of traction doing sales?
Yeah, thank you. That's a really good question. I think just not really. I don't know. Uh, I think firstly, not really caring too much about the outcome, which sounds like illogical. But I think I guess my kind of mental model is and this goes for lots of things in life, is like I hope this works out, but if it doesn't, it's okay.
Hmm.
Whereas I think if you go into like a sales call or even like a podcast recording, or any kind of like public speaking, for instance. And if you go into this being like bundle of nerves, being like, "Oh, I've got to do this right," or it's a disaster, you're probably not going to be very relaxed, and you're probably not going to do a very good pitch or a sales or whatever. So yeah, I generally go for it like the thing that yeah, I basically go for the kind of approach of like I hope it works out. I'll do my best, but if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world because it rarely is. But I think for sales as well, I mean, sales is really just you're convincing someone to do something. So you can kind of like practice, you can practice with your friends or your partner or whatever. You can be like, if your buddies are wanting to go to like a restaurant, you can, and everyone's going on one, you can be like, well, this Indian just opened up, it's got great reviews. My friend just went there, it's really close. So let's go there. And, you can practice kind of sales. You don't have to be, pitching to VCs or doing $1 million sales or something to practice sales. You can just be like everyday things. And I think just also as well, just getting out of your comfort zone, little things like um, I don't know. Sometimes if I go in like I guess one example is like recently I was in a cafe and I had like one shot of coffee, um, or that's what I ordered. And I was just like, oh, can I get a discount? Because it's only one shot, which kind of like makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And the cafe person, the barista was like, well, no, you can't. Sorry. And I was like, oh, that's fine. But
Yeah.
just kind of chancing your arm a little bit, like putting yourself maybe like going a little bit further than other people will. And that means the next time I'm on a call with someone and we're negotiating, it doesn't seem strange for me to be like, oh, well, can we go a little higher? Because, I've kind of practiced that muscle by, saying that thing to the barista, maybe.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of it comes down to a willingness to sit in a little bit of discomfort. And so it totally makes sense to me that asking the barista for 10% off or whatever is just a way of like habituating yourself to, like you said, putting yourself out there and also just like living in that tension for a second. Cause I think in any negotiation, there are those moments of tension. And if you're not used to it, it's very tempting to just do whatever you need to do to release the tension, whether that's go with a lower number or say, oh no, that's fine if you like ordered something and they bring you the wrong thing or whatever. So that's super interesting. Another thing you reminded me of is how you said you kind of just go in not expecting it to work out or not feeling like it has to work out. And there's kind
Mm.
of that famous phrase about negotiation that he who cares the least wins. So you
Mm.
can kind of just walk away. It's like, I don't need this to work out for like
Yeah.
to keep living my life. And it's a very powerful thing. It kind of gives you actual leverage. It's like a mental kind of switch that gives you real leverage in the negotiation.
Yeah, I mean, I'd never heard that phrase about caring less wins, but yeah, it makes sense. And like, I mean, yeah, it's not like I'm not, I don't want to get it, mixed up because it's not like I don't care. I'm not like lying
Right.
back, just be like, ah, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
I want it to happen, but it's more just like, I think the whole thing is like, I can handle it if it doesn't happen. And yeah, I mean, obviously sometimes negotiations are harder and you don't have so much leverage, but yeah, basically, yeah, being able to handle it if it doesn't go ahead according to plan is a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious a little bit more tangibly now. So, talking a little bit about mindset, but I want to get into tactics a little bit. I'm curious if you can share some of the tactics that you use. I'm thinking specifically of, I heard you, I think, speak with Cortland Allen about 3-2-1. So, I'm curious if you can share one or two of those kind of frameworks or tactics that you use more commonly.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'd say like I guess for one thing, for doing an email, it's always good to like end with the call to action, like the question, like do you want to like are you interested? Do you want to get on call? Um, something like that. Rather than I guess a lot of people in a sales might be, let's say for like yeah, let's say for like a cold email. So I do quite a lot of these for, sponsorship for my newsletter for No CS Degree. So I guess like a bad one might be like, hey, I've got this like slot in my newsletter. It goes to X amount of people. And then just like, thanks, Pete. And that's not really like, not really leading anyone anywhere. Whereas
Right.
if I was like, hey, I've got, space in my newsletter, it's got 3,000 developers on it. Can we, would you be interested? Question mark. That's it's a really simple difference, but it's leading them into somewhere like, oh, am I interested or not? So I think like leaving ending an email with a clear ask. And I think also like one ask per email is probably good, not
Yeah.
multiple things. I guess just like a landing page, most landing pages on a website, Netflix, if you go on Netflix, they just want you to sign up and try it. They don't want you to do like four different things. So I think that'd be really good. And I think, yeah, let's see what else. I guess in terms of like, guess just for bootstrappers, like know your worth. I mean, you have to have a reason, obviously, but don't price yourself too cheaply. And, I guess it's like a pretty standard thing, but if you want $200 for something, start with 250 and then they might talk you down or something. But don't be afraid to ask as well for a big number. And I guess especially if you're doing sales and you're talking to a company that makes like you know $1 million a year, they're gonna have like a big budget. And actually pricing yourself too cheaply can be bad because it's that thing of, well, it can't be very good if you're only charging that much, if you see what I mean.
Right.
Whereas if you can justify it, if I don't know, if you're trying to like sell to a company that say makes $1 million a year, and you've got like a SaaS that you want to get them using, if you're like, hey, it's only $5 a month, well, they make 80 grand a month. They don't care if it's $5 or $100 or whatever. as long as it does the job. So I think like, there's that thing in SaaS or business about always raising prices. So
Hmm.
yeah, don't like price yourself like too low. You can be, as long as you can justify that you've got good products, you can, give yourself a decent figure to start negotiating with.
Yeah, for sure. Very good point, I think, about kind of a cheap price giving a little bit of hesitation or doubt, kind of like price as an indicator of quality. So I think that's definitely helpful. And of course, there's the patio 11 thing of raise prices. So yeah, like you said, you can always start high and come down. So I think that's just super helpful for people to hear. And even if people aren't selling newsletter ads or whatever, I think, like you said, there's negotiation in everyday life, and surely people that are listening at some point are going to be negotiating a job offer, something similar. And I think those principles apply throughout. So that's really helpful. I'm curious, kind of changing gears again, a little bit about lifestyle is one thing I wanted to hit. So you mentioned that you're kind of simplifying things a little bit. And like you said, you kind of have a portfolio of things, but one thing starts to take off and you start to focus on that. I guess I'm just curious at this point, how much are you working on a week by week basis? Do you have any sense of what you're spending time wise?
Yeah, that's a good question. I probably don't work more than 40-hour week. And yeah, it really depends. I mean, I guess it's the way that like, for instance, we kind of know each other through Twitter, and
Hmm.
I really like Twitter. So some other people might see that as work if I'm like, in my evenings, I'm scrolling through Twitter, or I'm like, listening to podcasts so I can stay informed. So, is that work? Is it not? It kind of depends. But I mean, I think definitely I had the weekend off, and I did tons. I'm really into running. Did tons of running with friends, and that's really good. And great to get out of the house. And I think burnout is like a really big problem for founders. So yeah, I would definitely like. I'm not saying I never work weekends, because sometimes I do.
Hmm.
But I would say definitely it's a fairly like 40-hour weekish. Have weekends free, want to have a life outside of doing things like going to the gym or going running and seeing friends and stuff. So I think as well, I also get a lot of, it's this weird thing where if you go for a walk and you're like, oh, I'm going to take a break, that's usually when you'll get good ideas. You won't,
Hmm.
or I guess the same with coding. I know I see this all the time on Twitter where people are like, oh, I was really stuck on a problem, and then I, went to bed, and in the morning I fixed it straight away. So,
Yeah.
give your brain time to relax, go for a run, go to the gym or whatever, and then you're going to be like a lot healthier. And startups are a marathon. It's not a sprint, so you got to pace yourself accordingly.
Yeah, for sure. And I that's definitely a lot more appealing to me. It's kind of like you said, pace yourself, have a more calm life over the long term, optimize for longevity rather than kind of going crazy. On that note, I'm curious, do you have kind of a vision of where you'd like to go, or are you mostly content with how things are and the idea is just to keep things growing, but it doesn't necessarily have to be at a certain rate? Like, are you kind of happy where you are? Like, how do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would like to build No Set Screen more. I think it was really great over the weekend to get like a email from a developer, a woman in Ireland who found a job through the job board. So if you go on the No CS Screen website, there's like a jobs portal, and you can go there. All the jobs have been like selected by me, so they're you can apply for them if you're self-taught or bootcamp educated. So I'd really like to develop that side of it, because, to be honest, the B2B market is really lucrative, and people will spend a lot of money. Companies spend a lot of money on hiring, and
Yeah.
also I think that also for the people using the website as well, I think that's the biggest impact that I can have on them, is that, people want to get a job at the end of the day.
Right.
So I think I want to spend more time on the job board. I want to get more companies using that. I've got some meetings this week with companies that can hopefully get using it, and I think that would have like the biggest impact for people. And I think as well, just growing the brand, growing awareness, and coming on podcasts like this and getting more people to find out about NoCS Tree, because it is really, I think, going to be a great skill for people to have in the next few decades to come. You can definitely like change your life position and probably retire a lot earlier if you can like
Right.
get a developer salary. And I think as
Hmm.
well, just as we know from the COVID situation, like I'm very lucky because I work for myself, but lots of people have been like forced back into offices, or they've been, or if you work in retail, you're like really overexposed to COVID compared to like actually lots of other jobs that you can do from home. So coding's got a lot for it. You can do it from home. It's well paid, intellectually stimulating. So yeah, there's lots of reasons for me to get the word out more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's super inspiring. I'm glad that you decided to get started on this whole thing. I'm curious, just randomly, since you mentioned the job board, have you seen increased growth since you decided to kind of have the job board and the bootcamp index all under the No CS degree umbrella?
Yeah, yeah. So just to give your listeners some context, basically I started out with nocsdegree.com. That was like, the interviews with people where I share stories. And then a little bit after that, I made a separate website, which was for the same audience, but this was like a job board. And then I made another website, which was, a list of good boot camps to apply for. But what I should have done is put them all under the same domain. And if we can get into like search engine optimization for like a quick second, like SEO,
Hmm.
basically, if you've got three three websites like I had in the same area, it's pretty dumb to have them on all different .coms, because
Hmm.
essentially Google doesn't know that I run them all. So in Google's eyes, these are websites that are competing with each other.
Yeah.
And basically, the way part of the way that a website get does better at ranking in Google, so you can find it, is things like, do other websites link to it? So if I've got kind of three different things, I have to do kind of three times the work basically. And one website A might link to my job board, but it doesn't link to NoCS degree, or vice versa. So I've been in the process recently of like combining them all under the nocsdegree.com umbrella. Way better for SEO. So yeah, for anyone listening, if you've got like, say, two different websites that are in similar areas, my advice would be to combine them under one like really strong domain, instead of like doubling or tripling your work basically.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're not like cannibalizing your own traffic with similar products. So yeah, that totally makes sense. Another random question. Portugal is very hot right now for startup people. I saw that you went to a meetup there. Number one, how did you find it? And I guess I'm also curious, any thoughts of going and kind of maybe living there for a little while with other indie hacker type people? Like, what are your thoughts on the whole Portugal thing?
Yeah, yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, basically, so I have to give a shout out to Charlie Ward, who runs this like indie beers meetup in London in the UK. And basically, what happened was there's this company that's doing really well at the moment, Veed, which was basically a bootstrapped startup, which was doing something about like 7 million annual revenue around that. And they've raised capital, venture capital now. But basically, the founder of that, Saba, who I'm friends with, like he moved to Lisbon for like a month or two. And as a joke, he kind of said to Charlie, who organizes this London meetup, "Oh, why don't you do the next meetup in Lisbon?" And Charlie was like, "Yeah, that sounds great. Better than kind of miserable UK in February. So we'll go to Lisbon." And then yeah, Saba invited me, and then I think he invited me on the Monday, and it was due to start. The meetup was supposed to due to start on the Wednesday. So it's just like, yeah, cool. I was just feeling like adventurous, so I booked it. So 2 days later, it's there. So yeah, we had a great time co-working together. I met loads of other developers and founders from the kind of London scene. And yeah, Lisbon is full of indie hackers at the moment. There's loads of founders on Twitter. When I said that I was there, they were either like, oh, I just left, or oh, I'll be there in a few weeks, or
Yeah.
and actually some people, the cool thing with the whole digital nomad thing is there's realistically most people kind of go to places like Bali, Thailand, Lisbon, Medellin in Colombia, and maybe like, a few other places in Central Europe. So I told my friends that I was going there. A developer that I'd met at a different co-working digital nomad place in Bulgaria, he was like, "Oh, I'm in town as well." So I met up with him. So yeah, Lisbon's very cool. There's lots of people there right now. It is a very kind of trendy scene, and you can get a coffee for like €1.50, which is, I don't know what it
Mm.
is in dollars, but it's probably like $1 or $2 for like a really
Yeah.
nice coffee. And it's a beautiful city, and yeah, it's really great. As to would I live there, um, I think I really love Edinburgh where I live. It's really pretty. There's like, I live basically 5 seconds away from a huge park which has a kind of extinct volcano in it called Arthur's
Uh,
Seat, which you can climb up. And yeah, it's a really cool city. I'm about to go out with my running club in a few hours' time. So I really like it here, but I think my ideal situation would be like, have a few, because I work for myself, I can like take vacations when I want. So I think the ideal thing would be like, oh, I can go abroad to different places, for a few months. So I might go somewhere in the summer, in kind of July, August time. Probably not Lisbon because it'll be quite hot then, but
right.
somewhere else. And then I might, go somewhere for a month in winter, and just basically have that flexibility of having Edinburgh as my home base. But like, if a friend, the cool thing of working for yourself is you don't have to ask someone like, oh, can I get time off and blah 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 and justify it. If your friends are, it's very nice that like my friends were in Lisbon, so I can just be like, oh yeah, I can just go at a moment's notice. So that's the kind of lifestyle I guess I like to have.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I'm thinking of doing something similar. Unfortunately, don't have Portugal right next door to me, but some cool options kind of on this side of the globe as well. So that all sounds very cool. Pete, this has been great. Thanks so much for coming on. I'm curious before we wrap up if you could give one piece of advice to the audience in order to develop themselves for anyone looking to develop themselves. And also plug anything you'd like and let the audience know where to find you.
Yeah, no worries. I guess the main thing, like, I guess we've been talking a lot about having a growth mindset, and I think a really good thing is just challenge yourself to get out of your comfort zone regularly and do that as a kind of, could be like, like at the weekend, I just got a personal best for like running a 5K. And once you notice those things in one area of your life, you kind of think, oh, well, I could probably make more revenue this month. And then that means, oh, I could probably do X, Y, and Z. So I think definitely getting out of your comfort zone is like that is where the magic happens. It's a bit cliche, but it's true.
Yeah.
And sorry, what was the second question?
Oh, yeah. Just where people can find you and any place you'd like
Oh,
to
yeah.
direct the
Yeah.
audience to. Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, so yeah, check out nocs3.com. got about over 150 stories of people from all kind of backgrounds about how they've learned to code without a computer science degree, and they've either are working for themselves or working for really cool companies. We've got lots of people that have done really well on that website. And check out the job board if you're looking for a job. And you can find loads of my other projects in my Twitter bio, probably easiest place to go. So it's Pete Codes on Twitter, and my personal website is also petecodes.io. And that about wraps it up. But yeah, thanks a lot for having me on the podcast. It's been really cool. This is kind of my favorite thing to talk about, mindset and coding. So thanks for having me, Pierre.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you bring a lot of really great stuff to the table. So thanks so much for coming on. And for the audience, check out everything Pete mentioned. You'll find a lot of value there. And we will see you in the next one.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
That's all for today. Thanks so much to Pete for coming on. A quick reminder, my co-host Aaron has a free online cohort-based JavaScript course called Dev 30, and a new cohort is kicking off on April 25th, and this is going to be the last cohort that's free. So if you're interested at all in this, then go ahead and go to dev30.xyz, that's dev30.xyz, to go ahead and sign up for this course and take advantage of this opportunity. Aaron's online code school Parsity is also in the show notes. That's at parsity.io. Also, a quick plug before you go for my YouTube channel. That's at youtube.com/Peter Elbaum, where I talk about software engineering and self-employment and a lot of similar topics that we end up discussing on this show. So if that at all sounds interesting, then check that out in the show notes. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.